Okay. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic, Non-Classic, episode number 2660 and episode 2554. I got two Superman trades. Here we go. First up, we have is Superman, Our Worlds at War. This is supposed to collect the Superman side of that crossover. The crossover doesn't collect the whole thing per se, but it collects the Superman stuff. So we have, from Superman, we have Superman Volume 2 issues 171 to 173. Avengers Superman 593 to 595. Superman, the Man of Steel. Excuse me. 115 to 117. Supergirl, numbers, volume 4 to 59. Yeah, just 59. JLA, Our Worlds of War. Adventures of Superman. Where's that one? Action Comics, 780 to 782. Yeah, Superman goes to 170, 173. Young Justice, number 36. Impulse, number 77. Superboy, Volume 4, number 91. Wonder Woman, number 172, 173. And World's Finest, Our Worlds of War. Now, those of you might be thinking, does this trade collect the whole entire crossover? No. It does not. No, it doesn't. I don't really know why. What is the story of Our Worlds of War? It is mostly put like a storyline that involves an alien invasion by Imperiex. You're thinking, that name sounds kind of familiar. Wasn't he featured on the Legion of Superheroes TV show? He was. This is the comic made his debut in. This whole storyline, these are the writers for the issues collected in trade. We have Jeff Loeb, Joe Casey, Mark Schultz, Joe Kelly, Peter David, Phil Jimenez, Todd DeZinko. Your artists are Phil Jimenez, Mike Warrigo, Doug Mankey, Ed McGinnis, Pakel Fury, Carlo Barbary, Keno, Todd Nurk, Mark Buckingham, Duncan Russell, Yeva Galik, Bill Sienkiewicz, Ron Garney, Leno Kirk. Now, Peter David obviously does Supergirl and Young Justice. That's an obvious one. Phil Mendes does the Wonder Woman issues. I believe Jeff Lowe does the Superman issues. Let me take a look at what I think he does do Superman. Yes, it's him and Emma Guinness. I think Red Superman is it's Joe Casey and Mark Wendigo. As for Action Comics, that one's done by Joe Kelly. You're like, okay. What about JLA Worlds of War? That one is done by Jeff Loeb. The finale, the World's Finest, Our Worlds of War, the finale for this whole storyline, that's done by Jeff Loeb, and that's how it's all the other artists. If you're thinking, what book does Mark, what book does Mark do? It might be Impulse. No, that's Todd DeZinko does that one. Is it Man of Steel? Yes, it's Man of Steel. That's the one he does. Excuse me. Alright, so a lot of the Superman stuff is really in key with the character in this book. The only characters that I'm not really a big fan of how they've written this story, and it's I don't know if it's the writer's fault or he was told to do this way, and that's Young Justice. Them and the Impulse comic feel a bit out of place here. What do I mean by that? Well, apparently they're so befuddled by an alien invasion. That's what I've written. So I like Young Justice, but man, it's like their tie-ins are so weak. Now, sadly put, there is some depth to the storyline. One of whom is Maxima, the woman who apparently really wanted to marry Superman so badly, despite the fact he was actually married. Yeah, she gets killed off in the story issue 117. And you're like, that kind of makes sense given the fact she debuted in the Superman comic, so she gets killed in the Superman comic. Yes, at the time she was being a good guy, at the start, sort of a villain to Batman. I mean, she was created by Roger Stern, made her debut in Action number 645. Yeah, she was evil kind of at the start, but she was around for quite a while. She was around from September 1989 and got killed off in 2001. So for about 12 years. So yeah, she was a character found by the 90s. Yeah, at one point Steele briefly on the story and he came back. There's also a rumor, yes, a rumor, that John Ostrander, the writer of the Martian Manhunter, which actually he ended this book just prior to this story. And the reason he ended it was because he heard a rumor that Martian Manhunter wasn't killed off in the story. And you're like, what? They were going to kill Martian Manhunter. Why? I have no idea why. It was something I read online. And does Martian Manhunter hear the story? He does. Does he die? No. No, he doesn't. He's a minor character. There's a one point where Aquaman has to take a sidestep. He actually has a thing where Imperix invades Atlantis. So Aquaman is basically just has to abandon the whole space battle thing to go home to fight invasion of home. Which, good on him for doing that. Because it's kingdom. Excuse me. I should put this as published before he was banished from Atlantis. That's the events of Volume 6. That was Kurt Busiek there. Though a lot of the story is basically Superman questioning Lex Luthor in the story. Yes, Lex Luthor, who was President of the United States, got elected the previous year. Yeah, this is still kind of probably the period of time where Superman's not very trusting of him. Now, I heard a rumor. I heard this from somebody who likes Superman. That the Superman comic was published in this time period really bad artwork. And I'm like, which one? Superman by M. McGinnis, which of course is really good. Look at this artwork. That's gorgeous. Like, maybe there was some other comic that was in 2000s? Yeah, at one point that was about Brainiac stuff in here. It feels like a bit of like first you started with basically Superman fighting the Fatal Five in the opening issue of this trade, and then there was the whole Worlds at War stuff. I wasn't a big fan of. This apparently is Lois Lane, the whole woman with this weird looking hair. And thinking, man, that artwork is the McGinnis is basically like, the face is good, but what's up with the hair? Yeah. And fighting Girder. It's like starts off really normal for Superman. And then power through the story here's Chemico. Then he deals with the whole alien invasion by Pyrex. I found this story quite interesting for what it is. But I felt a little bit of hiccups and a bit of continuity gaps in this book. Not terrible per se, but I'm going to give the book roughly an 8.5 out of 10. Yeah. Still a really interesting story. So next up we have is Action Comics. The Rise of Metallo. Yep. This collects Action Comics number 1051 and 1056. This is the opening stories for these issues. Yes. I say the opening stories for good reason. Because this book was a multi-story book. Yeah, they either started last year and then like they did this kind of basically just before they did this whole Dawn of DCU stuff where Superman was a multi-story book. Like in the case of the first issue, like the first story, this book collects Speeding Bullets. It's yeah, speeding bullets. Yeah. Yeah, this opening issue debuts the group known as Super Twins, which are basically Red Sun and Star Child. Yeah, the two alien children that Superman adopted from Krypton. The Krypton Warworld. We also had this thing like the Blue Earth movement thing. Like this was really weird. I'm not sure why in the heck Philip Kennedy Johnson developed this group, and this sort of like a recurring group throughout his run until like issue 1060, where the whole story thing is like just stopped. Yeah, we also deal with stuff related to Cyborg Superman, and there's a lot of character film for Metallo. Now, one thing I love about this current era Superman, this is of course this was last year, where writers are trying to reform Superman villains. Like in Josh Williams' very first story arc, he had Livewire get reformed, become a reporter for Daily Planet, and had Parasite work for Supercorp. I'm like, that is interesting. I like that. This book is basically all Super Team Family, where you have Superman himself, his son John, Connor, Supergirl, Natasha, who currently is a lesbian for reasons, I'm not sure why, Keenan Kong, the Chinese Superman, and here the Super Twins. And it's also mostly put like a little bit of with Lex in here, where like it's revealed that what caused some stuff in the story related to Metallo. This was something that Lex did before he made his offer to Superman. Excuse me, that's kind of what happens with that. I like the idea of possibly reforming Metallo. And by the way, apparently John has never heard of Metallo. Yes, Superman's own son has never heard of Metallo. He's never met him before. That kind of makes sense given the fact that they never kind of before, which good on Phil Kennedy Johnson's part for basically bringing it up. Now, of course, yes, of course, Superman has met him. Supergirl has met him. Oh, and here's something I find interesting about Metallo. When they show Flashback when we first showed in here, it's not pre-Flashpoint. Oh no. They go with the new 52 origin, where he's got this green suit. Yes, the green suit from one of his earliest appearances in New 52. Which I'm thinking, that was weird. Yes, for some reason they went with this suit. I'm not sure why. And it's from the relaunch. Yeah, it's weird. I'm not sure why. Also, basically, yeah, there's also revealed in the story like, oh yeah, apparently he has a sister named Tracy, who becomes like a recurring character. But here's the thing: after this story arc, she and Metallo like done. Like, once the story arc wraps up, like, do they return after this? Not really. No, not really. Oh, there's basically a second story in here called Home Again. I think that's the I think that's a Dan Jurgens story. Yep, that's Dan Jurgens story. And there's also a Steel story too. Yes. The first three issues I think were just Power Girl stories. I think it was, yes. And if you read this book compared to reading Steelworks, it's like Steel was written completely different in two different books. I would say definitely yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, and the Steel story starts in issue number 1054, and it gets wrapped up by 1056. Of course, the book does end with it leading into Night Terrors. Yes. Yeah, and if you're curious, there's somebody, wait, Billy Kim Jones just left the book. He did. If you're thinking, when the heck that happened? Fairly recently. Yeah, so his last issue was 1060. So this book only collects, kind of in a way, the first 5 of his 10 mini issues for this book. And kind of in the way, and I'm going to say this even though that the final trade's not come out yet, he kind of saved this title from cancellation. Yes. He came in this book with 1029, which, you're thinking, how long ago was that? That was in March of 2021. That was roughly 3 years ago. And he just ended his run after only a little over 2 years. Like, almost 3 years. And I gotta say, he's done an amazing job so far. What he's doing now? Don't know. But we're not done just yet. Nope. Wait, is right. Yeah, so we got a little bit left to go. One shot really hooking my hands really soon is the middle story in the book. Now, I've already talked about the Power Girl story that's collected as the third story. And this was the first half. This was basically, this trade here is basically the first 6 issues of this 10 issue, of this, like I mentioned, first 10 issues. So, I'm sure the very next trade is it's going to be, there was a volume 1 in the back. So this is going, it's like about 4 issues left, and then basically we're done with this run for Superman. Well, for Action anyways, yes. Now, there's also a couple annuals. Yes, annuals. I think it was like, 1 annual published. So, I'm thinking that possibly that this basically next trade will probably collect issues 1057, 1060, and the, well, I mentioned people, I'm not a fan of the whole thing of like calling it, oh, the 2023 annual, despite the fact it came out this year. Yeah, so I'm pretty much in this here. Oh, by the way, I give this book a 10 out of 10. It's amazing. Okay, so that's the particular review. Next up is going to be more Blue Exorcist. So please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do not hit dislike button. Okay, next video. Bye.